Greetings hobbyists, this is Artisans of All, and this is the Moose 3D scanner from 3D Maker Pro. Let's take a look. So starting with the basics, the Moose is a nice compact 3D scanner. It's got one connection point at the back to connect to the computer or a phone, and then a single screw thread at the bottom so you can connect a tripod. Then you get the standard 3 lenses, and this model has these LEDs, which is always useful for making sure you get consistent colour. Overall, this just feels really well made. With this really nice metal exterior, it just feels like you could basically throw it down some stairs and it would survive. I haven't tested that, so don't hold me to it. A little frustratingly, no accessories come with it, but you can get this tripod for it. It's got a really nice solid connection point at the top, so you're not going to have any difficulties with positioning the camera if you want to use it with a tripod. I just don't know why you wouldn't include this with the scanner along with a turntable. Almost every other scanner you purchase now has one with it. Speaking of turntables, you can also get a turntable from the 3D Maker Pro site. It's powered off a USB, and it doesn't have an ability to change the speed on it. What it does come with is a really nice top surface, and you'll notice all around the outside it's got a range of different shapes, and none of them match up. And this is something that could really help with tracking as you do your scanning, a really nice design feature. Finally, you can also get this smart grip, which effectively is a handheld battery from what I can tell. Great that you can then use this on the move, though £200 plus is a bit much for my tastes. But that does segue us into something that's quite important, and that is that there are actually two types of Moose scanners. The Moose Lite is the cheap model with slightly worse resolution, and it doesn't do colour scanning. Whereas the Moose, which does have full colour scanning, is the one that I'm going to be reviewing, and it's also got a blue LED as its light source. Now it's really important to understand the difference between those because blue LEDs are going to give a slightly better resolution, whereas the near infrared scanner is something that you could use on someone's face, for example, because it's not going to cause problems with their eyes. And bear in mind we see people getting their face scanned in their advertising, that would be with the Moose Lite. Scanning is a simple affair, the software talks you through it pretty easily. You've got on the left hand side a gauge that will show you if you're the right distance. You can change the exposure, red is too bright, blue is too dark. Click scan and off you go, telling you the amount of frames that you've captured in that bottom pink icon. Now this cube is a pretty much perfect scanning object. It's a matte white and it's got lots of features that are easy to track. The scanner does a perfect job of this. It has no issues tracking at any point at all. And I'll mention the turntable again where you've got those indents which would make this tracking even easier. So this really is pretty painless. Once you've completed your scan, you've got your point cloud which you can navigate around. It's got a little bit of noise around the outside, but nothing that you wouldn't see on other scanners as well. Then you can choose your settings and start your processing. I would say I would like there to be a little bit more customizability on some of these settings. For example, selecting which holes you want to be filled versus which ones you don't. Once you have got your mesh, you get to start playing the enjoyable game of guess what the button does. If you come to the top left hand corner, you actually can click here and it tells you what a lot of the different buttons do, but even that doesn't cover everything. For example, if I want to get rid of this plate at the bottom, if I select this tool, then you have to hold control to make it actually work, and then you click, but then if you try to click at the end it doesn't work. What you actually have to do is you have to hold control, then click with your left mouse button, and then select all of your different points, and then once you've got to the point where you're finished, keep holding control and click with the right button. And none of this is actually mentioned anywhere that I can find. You've just got to guess your way through it until you get to the point where you can do this. Now once you have got this sorted, this does have some really nice tools. For example, the ability to measure your scans and check they're the right size. For example, this should be 60mm, and me roughly clicking from side to side says this is pretty much dead on, and I didn't really properly click on each of the corners. So we have got some really handy tools here. There just really needs to be some sort of tutorial that they have that tells you what all the buttons actually mean. So hopefully if you're interested in this scanner, having seen this is going to help you out and save you what for me was a very frustrating 5 to 10 minutes. Or maybe I'm just being really dense. If I am, please feel free to say in the comments section. If this is obvious and I've missed it, just let me know. Anyway, I've brought this object into Blender as it's quite a nice way to have a look at the mesh that's going to be actually created. And we've got a fairly good looking mesh here. It hasn't got the corners being as sharp as they perfectly could be, but again this isn't meant to be a high resolution scanner, and actually scanners have a very hard time with sharp edges. I would say some of these points underneath each of the shapes hasn't had the best filling ever. It seems to have created some noise and then not recognize that noise as it's been processing and then use some of those points when filling in the gaps, so you've got some slightly ugly shapes. Something we could smooth out ourselves, but it'd be nice if the software itself had recognized this. Next, I thought we'd try scanning a shoe. I'm doing this just using a normal platform that I can move around. The problem with things like shoes is being relatively elongated. They don't scan that well on a turntable, so having something manually you can turn around is really useful. And it shows you don't need to buy that turntable if you don't want to. Though we'll come back to another cool turntable trick, or potentially cool trick, in a second. So you can see me flicking around here and getting this done relatively quickly. I will say the tracking on this scanner is absolutely excellent. I didn't have any issues with tracking as I went through and did this, and this is exactly the sort of size object this scanner is designed for. Objects between 15 centimeters and about half a meter. So if you're looking to scan things and bring them into games, or maybe a product that you're looking to put a 3D view on a website or something like that, this is a scanner well suited to that, or at least that's what they say it should be good for. And here's the result of our scan, and this is looking really good. It's not got any graininess to the texture, it's just a nice smooth surface while capturing all the detail that we want, for example things like stitches, and the shoelaces look really good, as does the rubber detailing on the front. I'm just removing the base that it's captured a little bit of, but you can see all of this detailing here. It's done a very good job of this. And again, this is what this scanner's really designed to do, and it definitely does it well. So let's have a look at the image texture as well, and again, this is really impressive. The LED lights have meant that we've got a really consistent look to all of the colour here. We've got no areas that look darker or lighter in an unexpected way. The silver parts and the laces have been caught really nicely, and everything looks fantastic. Now underneath where we don't have an actual scan, it's a hole. It's got this very bright orange colour that's a bit garish. Bit of an interesting choice. I'd have probably chosen to use the texture that's on the edges and combine those together. But at the same time, that's not really a problem. It shows you clearly where any holes are. And if you actually needed the bottom side of this shoe, you'd scan both sides and then merge them together. So you'd never have this come up as a problem. Bringing this into Blender, we can see just how good a mesh this is. We've got a really nice texture. We can see all of the detailing we're going to want down to the stitching. We've got all of the iconography that we might want, and the laces look fantastic. Put the texture on and it looks even better. If you want a scanner that's going to be able to reliably scan things and bring them into a game engine, I would argue that this is going to be one of the ones you really want to consider. For me, there is just one thing holding this scanner back, and that is the software. And I think this scan exemplifies this really well. What an excellent scan of this hat, except for we've got some issues that we're going to have to solve because there are some slight undercuts and holes in the mesh. But easy to fix, we've got a fill gap option. Except we don't get the option of what gaps to fill. It will either fill everything or nothing. Meaning while it's done an excellent job on these small gaps, it's tried to fill the bottom of the hat, which then because of the shape of the hat has created these overlaps, making an unusable mesh. And this is a hat that's flexible, so I can't actually just scan the bottom of it and then merge these together because it won't work. It will change the shape of the hat when I try to scan the bottom. If we just had the option to choose which holes we want to be filled or the size of holes, this would easily be solved. So a simplification of our choices, which I'm sure is there to make life easier for us, is actually making life a lot harder for certain scans. So if you want a scanner and software that does a lot of the heavy lifting for you and you don't need to make lots of choices to make your scan work, the Moose could be a great choice for you. Though if you need a little bit more control or you're going to be scanning more complex objects, it might not be the right choice. At least until they add some more functionality to the software. Now I just wanted to finish up with the final feature of the software, and that is the table scan mode, and this is a brilliant idea. This isn't specific to the Moose, this is just part of the JM Studio software, and the way that works is that you scan your turntable that you're going to be working on. Now oddly this shows this scanning in seconds instead of frames, no idea why they do that, and then you finally put your object on, and the idea is that when you scan this, the software will be able to recognise the turntable because you scanned it previously, and then remove it from the object. I can't think of any other 3D scanning software that has anything like this. They have things that attempt to remove the turntable, but nothing that works like this with you pre-scanning something that's got these recognisable grooves on it. This should be amazing. Now unfortunately I've never been able to get this to work, and I've tried multiple scans with this. Every single time it tries to remove a large portion of the object, not just the turntable. I've tried this on objects that are relatively flat and relatively tall with no real success, which is a shame because it'd be really useful to be able to scan both sides of, in this instance, this rock, which is some malachite, and then be able to merge them together, but the merge function won't work very well because it's cutting off half of the rock with the turntable. So a feature that's got so much potential if they just get the software to do what it promises to do. So a potentially outstanding scanner that is unfortunately just being let down a bit by its software if you have some specific needs. But that's something that could be fixed at any point. Now if you are interested in the Moose scanner, there is a sale that's going to be going on for it, and that does make the Moose Lite one of the cheapest 3D scanners you can purchase. I'll put a link to that in the description, as well as a link to all my other 3D scanner reviews. Please do give the video a like if you found this useful, and have a great day.